I work at Thai Silicon Valley, and I want to welcome all of you and welcome all the speakers. I would like to hand over to Suresh Panala, who will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vani. Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our session, an exciting session on New Jersey, a global expansion to the East Coast of USA, the companies who are looking to open up operations in this geography. We are going to have exciting details. We have an eminent panelist who will talk about different cues, provide different pointers. It will be an interesting session. We have Thai is well represented in the East Coast. We have some Thai presidents who would like to talk about different chapters that we have and who are eager to help any companies who wants to have operations here in New Jersey. First off, I would like to introduce Anu Chitrapu, who is the Thai Boston president.
Hi, my name is Anu Chitrapu and I'm president of Thai Boston. I want to extend an invitation to all of you out there looking to build companies to consider Boston. Boston has three magical ingredients for entrepreneurial success. First, the world's top universities are here, so there is an abundance of strong talent from all fields. Second, Boston has a great ecosystem for supporting entrepreneurs. This ecosystem has produced numerous entrepreneurial successes. Last but not the least, Boston has a very vibrant and close-knit Indian community that will welcome and support you. I can give you many more reasons for why Boston is great, like how it has a rich history, is beautiful at any given time of the year with 4 clear seasons, etc., etc. But I will end by saying, come to Boston and build your unicorn here. Thai Boston is here to support.
That was Anu Chitrapu, the Thai Boston president. And we have Thai New York president, Dharti Arvind Desai, who would like to say a few words. Dharti?
I am the president of Thai New York. Very thrilled to be here, addressing our chapter in the Northeast in the US. We are almost 70 charter members in Thai New York and over 130 associate members. It's a very dynamic chapter with a fantastic board. We are currently able to take on pretty much all the initiatives of Thai Global, including Thai University, TYE. We have pitch competitions. We have our angel committee as well for the Thai Global Angel Platform. We've recently also introduced a diversity committee. So it's a very well-led board, some fantastic people out of our charter member community. We've got a really nice, healthy mix of investors, entrepreneurs, and corporate executives. There's a lot happening around startups in the tri-state area, and we're very happy to foster all of these startups with different programming that we do on every Tuesday of the month. Even in this pandemic, in these extraordinary circumstances, we've managed to do over 40 virtual events in the last so many months. We, of course, hope to go back in person pretty soon, but so far so good. We've been increasing in numbers. We work closely with New Jersey, Boston. We also have a Thai women program that's doing really well for Thai Global, and we're excited to be a part of that as well from New York. Thai New York welcomes anyone who's looking at expanding in this area. Very welcoming community in, of course, in Thai New York, but in and around all our partnerships that we have in the financial district of the world. We work really closely with a lot of incubators and accelerators, and we have access to a lot of investors as well. So we would welcome all startups that are looking to expand in this geography. Thank you.
Thank you, Karthik. And we have our own president, Thai New Jersey president, Mr. Raman Kapoor. Raman.
I'm Raman Kapoor, president of Thai New Jersey. A little bit background on Thai New Jersey. It was founded 10 years ago. It has over 70 charter members, 240 members overall. And our members reflect the concentration of industry in New Jersey. Basically, it's all life sciences, technology, communication, fintech. That's the New Jersey is the center for these, and that's where we draw our members as well. Yeah. Neetu Randhawa is our executive director. We're located in Princeton, New Jersey, on the 4th floor of the beautiful PGA building, Princeton Growth Accelerator building. During this period of COVID in particular, we've drawn on our charter members, key charter members, serial entrepreneurs like Jassi Chadda and Navneet Puri, who have multiple ventures that they've exited and reestablished, to offer us some guidance during this period, COVID period, that would help others, other members as well. Fortunately, people like Samir Dhir, Forchusa, Anjan Lairi, former CEO of Birlasoft, co-founder of Mindtree, they've stepped forward during this period. Anjan established the CEO Tech Circle during this time to offer advice, guidance to our members. New Jersey is, extremely well situated between the New York market, which is of course very large, but also the Philadelphia market, which is substantial, and the Washington, D.C. market, which is great for technology companies because the U.S. government always spends a great deal of money on technology, and that doesn't go up or down with changes in the economy. That seems to continue to grow. So New Jersey is very well located. It's good from a family standpoint because, there is a large concentration of professional Indian Americans. New Jersey has the largest concentration, 4% of any state in the US. And some of the areas that we gravitate towards, people of Indian origin, are the ones which have great schools. And they have Indian Americans at about 17% of the total county population. So New Jersey is really extremely well situated, good place to bring up families as well. And so if you decide that that's the place where you want to be, come visit us or come explore and use this as your landing pad. Use PGA, use Thai New Jersey as your landing pad during your next visit. Come and explore, and best wishes for your success. I hope to see you in Princeton, New Jersey.
Thanks, Raman. You can see that we have a great leadership of Thai presidents around this area. Between 3 chapters, we have about 1,000 members you can tap into anytime, and they're eager to help you. Now, I'm Suresh Panala, Thai charter member of New Jersey. I wear multiple hats. I work in the education domain. I help companies who are looking into opening up operations here in New Jersey. I'm a board advisor for a couple of companies, companies like American Institute of Technology, Vibrant Inc., and I closely work with the Telangana T-Hub and the accelerator we just opened in Khammam, the IT Hub in Khammam, and a couple of accelerators around the globe. So that's about me, and Princeton is home for me for past 20 years. Now I'm very excited to bring in and introduce the panels for this session. I would like our panelists to please go ahead and introduce, starting with Bill.
Thank you so much. My name is Bill Noonan, and I am with Choose New Jersey. We are an economic development organization. We are privately funded, so we're a not-for-profit, and all of our services are complimentary. We have offices here in New Jersey and internationally. We do have an office in India, which supports companies that are looking to come to the United States. We work in a variety of sectors, whether it's life sciences, technology, manufacturing, logistics, film and media. And we provide services for our client companies everywhere from site selection to information about the workforce, collaboration with education facilities, comparisons to other states, and also introductions to the folks within state government that can help with some of the incentive programs that we will discuss later. And we look forward to having a very active conversation today.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks
for joining. Next up, I request Vinay. Vinay, can you please introduce?
Sure. So hello, everyone. My name is Vinay Nabhani. I'm a charter member of TIE New Jersey. I am a shareholder in a public accounting firm, CPA firm, of Wilkin and Gutton Plan. We have two offices, one in East Brunswick, New Jersey, and another in New York City. So as a medium-sized accounting firm, we do a lot of work assisting clients with basically all of their financial needs, whether it's accounting, auditing, taxation, helping prepare for a sale of the business, anything you can think of. So I, in particular, spend quite a bit of time helping businesses and individuals from all over the world, especially India, come to the U.S. As their Indian or foreign-based businesses expand to the U.S. We kind of try to help be that one of the, what I call it, the first phone call. Who do you call? Really with anything relating to financial aspects. So we get very involved with our clients' businesses because we work so much with clients coming from India. There's a lot of nuances coming from India with the regulations that we focus on in particularly. And same happens for people coming from other countries, UK, UAE, Singapore. There's a lot of nuances that do play a role into how you set up the US business. So it is a lot of dynamic and fun discussions.
Thanks, Vinay. Next, I would like to request Mark Citon. Can you please introduce?
I can. I too am a charter member of TIE. I am the resident managing partner of my law firm, Saul Ewing, Arnstein and Lair. Physically, I am situated in Princeton, New Jersey. My background is dealing with the purchase and sale of businesses, financing, and I try to bring a practical approach to any legal representation. My law firm consists of 400 attorneys, approximately, and all of you have heard the various introductions from people in New Jersey, people in Boston and New York, and my firm has 17 offices. So we are located in Washington, D.C., in Florida, in Illinois, Maryland, Boston, Massachusetts, Princeton, New Jersey, Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Harrisburg, etc., New York City. We have the resources ranging from life sciences to patent and trademark, software development, licensing. We have the skill sets to meet the needs of anybody that would like to set up a business here in the United States.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Lastly, I would like to request Vijay Garg. Vijay.
Thank you, Suresh. I'm Vijay Garg, co-CEO of Princeton Growth Accelerator. From my career, I'm a technologist who was fortunate to work on some of the innovative platform for SAP-led global teams, was critical part of their CRM team. 16 years back, started my first uh, company, Principal Consulting, technology-based business. And since then, met many different teams and individuals, and with them started different businesses in different sectors. The beautiful part is when you work with different people and see the energy, sometimes they have a lot of things with them, but they may be missing one piece or another and potentially looking for a co-founder or maybe some resources which can get them over the hump. So while working through this thing, we realized that they need different support, they need different activities. And what we started doing is we gave a name to this initiative 2 years back called Princeton Growth Accelerator. It is based out of Princeton, New Jersey. TIE New Jersey headquarters is situated in this. And here we are actively working with different companies, whether they are based of some of them in India, Israel, USA, Canada, and so on. So I look forward to anybody needing some support or any help in this area, Princeton Growth Accelerator, and we are always out there for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Vijay. Thanks for all of you for introductions. Let's get into the topic, the real topic. So basically, if a company who's looking to open operations here in US, the first thing they look at is the location. Where should they start their operations? So I would like to go to Bill and would like to ask Bill, why a company needs to choose New Jersey?
Well, thank you, Suresh. Well, I understand I only have a few moments, but I could talk about why New Jersey for the rest of the time. One of the things that we first talk about is the workforce. And I think a lot of the things that I will bring up have been discussed as well, but we have one of the most highly educated workforces in the United States. Over 40% of our adults have bachelor degrees. We're perfectly located, as has been discussed, between New York and Washington, D.C., with Philadelphia nearby. And within driving distance, you're near over 30 million folks. So whether you're a business to business or business to consumer, it's an excellent location. We have the #2 port in the country, #1 port on the East Coast. We have, so from all the different sectors that I talked about before, whether it's life sciences and biotech, where we have a great number of large organizations that are here, you have the workforce for that. If you're in the financial services, we have the workforce for that. We're right next to New York City. We draw on that. From a location standpoint and a cost standpoint, we're much less expensive than having an office in New York. The ecosystem for tech is very well defined here. And for Indian companies that are looking to come here, as has been discussed, there is a great Indian population. We're the #1 state in the United States for job creation by Indian companies, with over 9,000 jobs created by Indian companies. So the foreign direct investment into the state of New Jersey from India is great. And we look to always provide more support in that area. Our school system is the #1 school system in the United States. From a diverse standpoint, we have the most diverse city in the United States. So, like I said, I could go on and on about all the great reasons why to come to New Jersey. It's a great place to not only to work, to live, to play. For those of you who understand that you can go skiing. There's the beaches. There's wineries. There's, anything from an urban environment, a suburban environment, and to a rural environment, we have in New Jersey. So, and if anybody has any questions, that's what Choose New Jersey is for. We can put you in touch, identifying the great locations, whether it's an urban environment, whether it's an accelerator, whether it's you're a startup. If you're more established and you need larger facilities, we have that as well. So, like I said, I don't want to talk throughout the entire session, but
no, I can see
we have a great enthusiasm for the state of New Jersey, and we want to have people come here.
I see that passion in you. Thank you. Vijay, do you want to add anything as an accelerator? You want to add anything to what Bill talked about?
So Bill positioned New Jersey very well, and he's a CEO of entity called Choose New Jersey. Couldn't be a better name. Once somebody decide that, okay, we want to land and expand in the East Coast of USA, New Jersey, New York, or the surrounding area, that's where PGA comes in. So if somebody is just basically looking at a simple address to get started, they want something for the sake of company, corporation, and so on, you need an address in US. So this is a place you can get started with your first address. When you are coming here, want to meet different people, this facility has all the different access for you in terms of conference room, work area, and whatnot. And you can come plan those meetings, spend some time, so that whenever you are coming here for 2-3 days, even you get a good productive time. And likelihood, if you are setting up some of these meetings with a time member, they may already be familiar with, because we do a lot of events and activity with the people out here. The other important aspect which comes up is when you're starting a company, you're typically looking for an expert or a mentor in that specific area. You may want to start something in biotech, or maybe fintech, or maybe just a simple technology business. In those cases, if you are looking for some of the important aspect which you should be familiar with before you are able to kind of plan your strategies, plan your activities, it's out there. And we have, New Jersey government is very supportive. There's an Economic Development Authority and other initiative. So if you're raising a fund, you need your angel investor receiving a tax credit. You are potentially hiring different people and expanding, they will support you. There is a tremendous focus even for the film projects and so on. If you film something and you want to create something here, there are special credits and so on. And all along with the support of people like Mark here, Vinay here, and we basically provide you access to find these different resources. And some of the resources we can't even plan ahead. So if you just make a call, come connect us through the TIE New Jersey team, where Neetu Randhawa is the executive director, or reach out to us for the Princeton Growth Accelerator. We will be here, a community, a friend, a place for you to get started and take the things forward.
Thanks, Vijay. Now that the company has decided on a location, now comes the fun part. I want to bring in Vinay. Vinay, we would like to talk about, the selection of the entity structure. Please give us some guidance. Vinay, you're not audible, Vinay.
I have 2 mute buttons. I unmuted myself one time, but not the second time. So the last 2 speakers spoke about New Jersey. So I want to just talk about that for a second before we talk about the choice of entity. So many times I will get calls. The first question will be from somebody outside the US. I need to have an office in Delaware. Why Delaware? So I just want to kind of lay the groundwork, and Mark may get into this. That's a legal distinction. That's like your registered office. And that's really got nothing to do with where your business is physically located. So for business purposes, choose the location that makes sense for you. And as a separate legal matter, if the entity needs to be formed in Delaware, that's a separate issue, and that doesn't change how you run your business. So I just wanted to kind of bring that up. So in the US, we have a few key type of different entities you can operate business in. Probably the most common for a business coming from overseas is what we call a corporation, which is similar to a private limited in many other parts of the world. The entity is a legal entity. There's no liability outside of to the owners of the legal entity, and the legal entity pays tax by itself. So that's certainly the most common way we have it. Many people will Google and they'll find out that S corporations, they'll say, should I be an S corporation? An S corporation is only available to businesses that have all US tax resident owners. So usually S corporations are not something that we see. Another common entity is limited liability companies or LLCs. Those have flexibility as to taxation. But for probably reasons that are too technical to get onto this webpage, on this webinar, we're probably not, LLCs are probably not the preferred way of operating in the US if you're coming from out of the US. So we typically will look at a corporation. The one other thing that we discourage is coming to the US as a branch office. Many people want to come and just set up a branch because it's very simple to do. But it creates some overly technical tax problems that I don't think it makes sense to go into, but a branch is really not a good way to come into the US. So once you've figured out your type of structure, the other key thing to be aware of, the fundamental difference in the US that you have from other countries, is we have a federal system and a state system of taxation. So you will pay tax on your income, the corporation, at the federal level. And then based on your economic footprint, where the business is actually working, some portion of your income will be allocated to the various states in the US where you have business operations. Many people will say, okay, I heard that Florida has no tax. Let me just make an office in Florida. And it doesn't work that way. You have to kind of look at the commercial the footprint of where you're doing business for those two main things. So those are really kind of the cornerstone issues to decide is what type of entity to form and where it's going to form.
If you could take a step back for a moment and go to one of the entities that you described, and that would be a C Corp.
Correct.
And
Correct.
And there's a consequence to that, because there's going to be a tax at both the corporate level and the individual shareholder level. And as you also mentioned, with respect to a subchapter S Corp, a non-resident alien cannot be a shareholder. That's number one. And number two, it's limited to no more than, and maybe it's not applicable here, 100 shareholders. You did mention the distinction as to where you locate physically and what laws govern your organization. Without stepping on Bill's toes, we frequently recommend that you incorporate or set up your governing documents in the state of Delaware. The reason for that is it's management friendly. But again, as you well pointed out, that doesn't mean you don't do business in New Jersey, because New Jersey is an excellent place to do business.
Doesn't step up my toes at all, Mark. That's but we have a lot of companies that set up in Delaware and then choose New Jersey as a location because of all the other issues that we talked about. So it's easy to do, and it's easy to, as you can well imagine, easy to set up in New Jersey as an entity.
Absolutely. And technically, what you're really doing is you're going to file a certificate of formation if in fact you were an LLC, or you would file a certificate of incorporation if you were setting up a corporation. I don't know if anybody wants to get into the governance aspects of these entities.
I just wanted to, I just want to continue that thought, and then I was about to ask you, what are the governance documents that you need to form a company and maintain these governance documents?
Well, let's take a corporation. You need to file that certificate of incorporation. You need to create bylaws. I always recommend, as does Vinay, a shareholders agreement. What is a shareholders agreement? It really is a roadmap for the governance of the corporation. It's going to have buy-sell provisions. It's going to have terms and conditions dealing with the management of the particular company. It's going to lay out who has what shares, what percentage, whether a majority vote, a supermajority vote will be required for any particular action. You want to be proactive and you want to prevent problems later on. So you want that shareholders agreement in place. You want to issue the physical shares. As Vinay well pointed out, there are tax aspects. So you need to apply for a tax ID number. You need to maintain corporate minutes because, as he also pointed out, you're free from personal liability. But in order to achieve that goal, you've got to maintain the formalities of a corporation. You can't just say, oh, I'm a corporation, I don't have to do anything further. You have to file an annual report with the state, and obviously you will file, wherever you are, state income tax returns and federal income tax returns. That's it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mark. I think you and Vinay have covered, the basic facts about how to incorporate and what are the options available in the governance documents. That was good step into the additional questions. But at this point, I also want to talk about the IP, how to protect your IP and how critical is to do that. So to talk about it, I would like to have Michael Ben-Shimon, who is in the services of protecting the IPs, helping clients on how to protect their IP. Can we have Michael Ben-Shimon, please? I don't know if hello.
Hazel?
Hazel, do you have that?
Yeah, sure, just playing them.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Ben-Shimon, and I'm the founding member of MLB IP Analysts. Many technology companies stay away from seeking global patent protection. Some companies are skeptical of the business benefits of such a foreign patent. What can you do if your business is based in New York, but your product is infringed by manufacturers in Thailand and then sold in a counterfeit from across Europe? These challenges are real and present new problems for investors and inventors alike. While these concerns are legitimate, they can be addressed effectively by global patent protection strategy. For startup companies with patentable inventions, international patent protection approach should focus on choosing inventions that present the best case for foreign protection. Since patent laws vary significantly from country to country, it would be prudent to be assisted by patent experts to minimize the chances for rejecting such patents. If your invention can fetch good returns in a foreign country, or if you strongly feel that your competitors would benefit by exploding your invention in other countries, it would be best to consider patent protection as part of your business patent strategy. The advantage of MNB IP is providing strategic guidance to startups through our services, patent mining and strategizing, patent prosecution, and of course, global patent protection. We help our clients to define and execute an international patent protection and transforms their inventions into powerful business assets, both in domestic and foreign markets. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Michael. So now to continue our discussion, now that we have a location, we have our organization, our company structure in place. Now comes the employees, the availability of employee pool. So I want to bring in Bill to talk about the strength of New Jersey in the workspace, and also talk about some NJEDA incentives that are in place. Bill?
Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, one of the major advantages to coming to New Jersey is our workforce. It's a highly educated workforce. We have a great number of companies in a variety of areas, so that if you're in advanced manufacturing, if you're in life sciences, if you're in technology, we already have those folks here. We have a great university system, including the #1 university in the United States, Princeton University. And we build a lot of relationships with our client companies and with educational institutions to make sure that they're getting the right people that are coming. There are investment tax credits for folks who are doing training for folks, depending on what areas they're in. And we put companies together with the Department of Labor and identifying what those kinds of incentives could be. And as Vijay mentioned earlier, we have the Angel Investor Tax Credit Program, so that for qualified investments up to 20 or 25%, you can get some tax credits against your corporate business taxes or your gross income taxes. We have tax incentives for net operating loss for technology and biotech companies, where you can send, if your IP is in the in New Jersey, that's another facility for you. And we talked about entertainment. We do have for filmmakers a very nice tax credit between 30 and 35% of the film's expenses, depending on where you look. If you're in southern New Jersey, it's a little bit more, 35%. Northern New Jersey, 30%. And then there's also a 2% kicker for folks who are minority owned. So there are a lot of different things, as Mark and Vinay, and we've all been talking about. New Jersey is very welcoming for businesses to the state. We have not only the facilities and the workforce, but then the incentives for folks.
Thank you,
Bill, I don't know if you and Vinay want to also address the potential for opportunity zone investment and setting up in one of those zones.
Good point, Mark.
Bill?
Yeah, well, that's, so that's based on location, and I'm forgetting the number off the top of my head of opportunity zones or urban enterprise zones. But each one of those has their own tax incentives. And then each municipality or county has incentives. Could be everything from a pilot program, which is a payment in lieu. Now we're getting into the weeds a little bit. Payment in lieu of taxes. The whole idea that I want to get across is that when you come to New Jersey, there are things that we can do to try to support you in a variety of ways.
Thanks, Bill. Now, going back to, I know Vinay touched upon, taxes and the tax considerations for company and employees. Vinay, I want you to give the differences between the federal state taxes, the sales tax versus GST, and other tax information that will be helpful for companies.
Yeah, that's a good point, Suresh, because so oftentimes we start talking only about the income tax and we forget about the other types of taxes. So let's look at the whole picture. So if you are operating as a corporation, as Mark pointed out, a C corporation, right now the federal corporate tax rate is 21%. So you'll calculate your income and pay a tax of 21%. To the extent that the company is profitable and you pay a dividend, then in the US, the dividend is taxed in the hands of the shareholder, not the company. And if you are a US shareholder, you'll pay a federal tax of approximately 24%. If you are a foreign shareholder, there is a statutory rate of withholding of 30% on a dividend. Now, that 30% withholding rate is reduced due to the different treaties the US has with different countries. So for example, under the US-India treaty, that dividend withholding rate is generally reduced to 15%. So that's the federal income tax and dividend tax. As we've spoken, there's a state level tax. And it can be very common if a company is operating in many states for a client to file in 20 or 30 states, or just one. And different states have different ways that they allocate the income. And states, of course, have their own tax rates that range from 0 in a few states to 10 or 11%. So we often, when we think about it, we generally think of a blended state rate of 5 to 7%. Depending on the states that the business is operating in. So that is the income tax. The other new thing to most people who come to the US from other countries is we don't have, our method of indirect taxation is what we call a sales tax. Most other countries have a value added tax or a GST tax, where you have a systems of inputs and outputs, and you pay tax on the incremental value that you add to the transaction. In the US, it's kind of, think of it as a kind of a cliff. There's one indirect tax called the sales tax, which is imposed generally on the vendor who's selling the good or service to the final end user. And it's economically it's a cost to the final end user, but the person who's doing that final sale is required to collect it. And if they don't collect it, then the liability shifts to them. And there's, in fact, many traps, because especially in the world of digital and electronic commerce, some of the sales tax rules are not as clear cut, and you have to really be aware of that from the beginning as to whether what you are doing is going to create sales tax. If you are a B2B type customer, if you're selling active pharmaceutical ingredients to a pharmaceutical manufacturer, generally those intermediate transactions do not give rise to sales tax. The other major category of tax we have is payroll-related taxes, and the major payroll tax is a tax that's imposed on approximately the first $130,000 of earnings, and that tax is split into two pieces. The employer pays approximately 7.5%, and the employee also pays approximately 7.5%. So that combined 15% is, I'm sorry, the employer pays their 15%, they withhold the other 7% from the employees. The total of the 15% is remitted to the federal government. The states have payroll taxes, but those tend to be much, much lower. And it's not a tax, but the other thing that's important to know as you're coming to the US is health insurance. Based on your number of employees, there could be a requirement for health insurance. As a practical matter, if you're trying to be competitive, employees will be looking for health insurance. And in the US, there's different portions of the premium that either the employer pays or the employee pays. And oftentimes that's based on the competitive landscape. So that's a cost that employers need to consider.
Thanks, Vinay. Thanks. They were good pointers. Now, Mark, I want to come to you and talk to you about different considerations for money movement across countries, capitalization. So if you can throw some light on that.
Well, it's something that Vinay and I had discussed this morning. So Vinay, I'm going to kick that one back to you.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So I look at it from 2 points of view: the money coming into the U.S. to form the company, and the money in the form of profits or excess funds going back to the parent shareholder. So like most countries, the U.S. would love to see money coming in as capital and not as debt. So in the U.S., you can have as much capital as you want. We do have a concept of par value, but that's, forgive me, Mark, I think it's in practical ways, it's almost immaterial.
It is.
Yeah, but I think one of the keys, and this gets again to knowing where you're coming from. In India, there's quite a bit of value put on the par or the stated value of the shares. So oftentimes in the US, when we wouldn't think twice about what the par value is, we have to think very carefully about what the par value is of the shares if we're coming from a country like India, where there are strict RBI controls. So money coming in from a US point of view, capital is no problem. We do have thin capitalization rules so that we don't want to have too much money coming in as debt. As a business owner, we prefer debt because it's easy to, once you exhaust the required interest payments, you can make a payment of the principal without it attracting additional tax. So that's really what we look at, the debt to equity structure in forming companies, and that plays a hand in the sending the money back. In the U.S., we don't have any foreign currency controls, so there's no limitations. Those are not any issues. It's strictly based on what's the company's available cash flow and what's the governance to make that payment. And I guess the only other related topic, which is not directly related to your question, Suresh, but it's important, is transfer pricing. Because many times the U.S. company will have their foreign affiliate wherever it is, and there's a concept that applies all over the world that you should deal with related companies in the same way that you would treat an unrelated company, right? So if I have an affiliate in UAE where there's no income tax, I would love to take huge deductions from the US and shift all that profit to the UAE and pay globally less tax. And that's where transfer pricing comes in. I shouldn't be able to do that. I shouldn't be able to manipulate my earnings by moving money from a low tax jurisdiction to a high tax jurisdiction. So that's, I hope I answered the question, Suresh.
Yeah, it's a big topic, and then it needs a lot of time to discuss about various avenues. How do you do that and all that?
Yes.
Obviously, if anybody is interested, they can reach out to TIE New Jersey or reach out to the panelists. We will provide their contact information to get more information on taxation and any other matter during this discussion. So now I would like to go back to Vijay Garg and would like to ask him, what does an accelerator like TGA, what's its role in the community and how they can help new companies? You might have touched a few things, Vijay, but I would like to just talk about the different things that an accelerator will do.
Thank you, Suresh. So one of the key things, you may want to try to mute something, or I think focus doesn't shift here. That's great. So there are a few aspects which are important when somebody is growing their company, expanding. Number one is fundraising. You want good fund being available to you, somebody who will invest in time and energy and resources to empower you more. So there are different angels group, the investment entity who are operating around in New Jersey and surrounding area. If you are looking for something, please send the proposal to us. We will engage and accordingly make the necessary introduction. From our side, we help out the early stage company as well as the growth companies. And you will hear some of the case studies and stories in the next session, which will be happening very shortly. The other important aspect is the whole customer acquisition part of it, because when you are coming in new territory, there are different ways to approach the customer, hire different people, and so on. And for that thing, if you want to just even get good quality digital studio element, like you saw some of the videos created for this event and so on, we have the full-fledged digital studio out here, and we can help you hire different people. And as Bill kind of pointed out, the workforce here is pretty good. You have Princeton University, Rutgers University, Stern and Wharton are not too far. And all these people gravitate towards this geography because this is the kind of the happening area within this whole East Coast belt. And if you do need some kind of immigration support and so on, we have a Chug law firm, which is another partner of TIE New Jersey here, who can help out to you. In a nutshell, there are different aspects. As of now, I mean, fundraising, hiring, customer acquisition are some of the key aspects. You can always reach out and we will be glad to participate and help you.
Thank you, Vijay. Thank you. How are we doing on time? I think we are doing good. So I have a couple of more questions, some general questions related to, like, what are the accounting systems that we follow? here. And if any of you, like Vinay or Mark, you want to just talk about different accounting systems that we follow here in US.
Sure. So the accounting systems tend to be, I would say, relaxed is not the right word, but they tend to be more flexible. Unlike other countries where there's a requirement for an audit, or there's a company's house where all the financials are public, the US is very private in that regard. The main criteria is that your books and records, your accounting systems support your tax filings. And really that's all a company has to do in terms of required compliance. Many companies will, for whether it's banking needs or shareholder needs or governance needs, will have more formal financial statements put together, but otherwise it's just a question of using whatever makes sense for the company. In the US, there's a popular software package called QuickBooks, which is very, very common for businesses of many scales. And there's quite a degree of flexibility.
Thank you, Vinay. Okay, I think I see a lot of questions popped in. Maybe we can go to Q&A and then we can do summarization. I have a question here about how an Indian national open a 100% owned entity in the US and have a bank account in any big or known bank without visiting US. Anybody, any takers? Anybody wants to answer that?
Hopefully we have Sapan Shah on the line with us, who's a vice president of PNC Bank, and
yes,
perhaps
yes.
he can jump in.
Yes.
Yeah, PNC. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is a topic Sapan and I speak about frequently.
Okay.
So,
all right, I guess,
on the East Coast, we have the fortunate that PNC Bank is pretty well established here with a lot of retail branches and different banking solutions out here. So whenever somebody want to come in, want to set up a banking relationship, that's a great bank to work with and so on. And as all of the panelists talking about, Sapan Shah, Senior Vice President, is a Thai New Jersey charter member also, will be a great one. And they understand the nuances of getting a different government IDs and other aspect when you are opening an international thing. And whether it comes to about opening a 100% owned entity, Vinay can more highlight that aspect of it.
So just to pinpoint, I think that the point of this question is all banks have what they call KYC or Know Your Customer requirements, and it actually is very challenging in this situation to open the account, because the banks want they want to know that there's a real economic presence physically, and that this is not an account that's being used for potentially not good purposes. And so
committing fraud.
Yes.
Money laundering, yeah.
So there's no universal answer to the question. It really depends on relationships with bankers and trying to help them get comfortable with their KYC requirements.
BJ, I'd like to take a step back. You've talked about financing and things of that nature. It is, as Vinay just said, critical to establish a banking relationship. And going back to something else you said with respect to taxation and accounting, establishing clear and clean financials are equally as important, because lenders, if that's the route you're going to travel, are going to require that.
Thank you. So now I think,
Thank you,
Vijay, thank you, Mark, thank you, Vinay. Now that we are approaching to our time here, before that, I would like to just have a summarization from each one of you so that, people who are taking notes can jot down some things. Can we go ahead and summarize? Mark, you want to go first?
Well, I believe in practicing preventive or taking preventive legal actions so that you don't end up in the hands of attorneys and litigation, because litigation in the United States is vastly different, and the judicial system is vastly different from that of India. So again, reach out to your experts, whether it's an attorney or your accountant, or as Vijay said, a friend. Relationships are critical.
Thank you. Thank you. Good point, Mark. Bill, you want to say something in summarization?
Certainly. We've talked about a lot of different areas, a lot of different types of companies, New Jersey as a whole. I think if you have any further questions, you're going to put up our contact information, but they can go to choosenj.com, which has a lot of information. We like to be that ombudsman. And again, as I said in the beginning, all of our services are at no cost. So if anybody has questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to me.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you. I think I have like a few more seconds. Quickly, you wanted, Vinay, Vijay, you want to say something?
Vinay, you want to go?
Sure, I'll go. So just very quickly, one of the biggest mistakes I see is people coming to the US from another country where they have some pressing commercial transaction and they jump in and do things that don't make sense. They'll form the company online. Things are not thought out. And I would just say resist that temptation, speak to an advisor, and plan out your structure in the beginning, because it's very hard to undo an incorrect structure.
Good.
Thank you, Vinay.
I would like to just make a small comment here that, as Bill pointed out, New Jersey is very welcoming. When you are, we have Sureshji here who set up a relation between T-Hub and New Jersey already, they're called Trestle. So there is a likelihood you may not only find a friend, but friend who understand your culture so closely, a friend who understand your language, like Michael Simon you just saw, he do a lot of business for the Israeli company. So reach out to us. We are here. This is the destination you want to go, come and expand.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks to all our panelists. That's all we have. And thank you to each and everyone who participated. Thank you, Hazel. Thank you, Wani, for providing